Hello and welcome. I am Kim Keen, host of the One of a Kind You podcast. I started this podcast to share my journey of my past self, a woman who was struggling with leaving her teaching career and adjusting to stay-at-home mom life, to help other women with their motherhood journeys or their work-life balance journeys so that they can let go and make themselves a priority without all the sacrificing. So if you are a regular listener to this podcast, thank you so much for tuning into another episode. I'm so super excited to have you join us. And if you are new, thank you so much for stopping by to check it out and to see what it's all about and what we have to offer here. So the way that this podcast usually works is I share a journal entry of mine from about 7 years ago when I was in the thick of the struggle and what I wish I knew then and what I know now as a certified life coach. But today we are in for a special treat. We have Dr. Kim Brown with us. She is an NLP practitioner and she really helps with holistic health and wellness change. She likes to call herself the change catalyst, which I love. And so her journey started years ago with battling pain and lethargy. And so she has embarked on this journey of learning NLP, learning hypnosis and timeline therapy, and helping other people work with their bodies to help clear their mind and get rid of blocks and obstacles so that they can really step forward and be who they truly are without any regrets or any coulda, woulda, shouldas. So, Kim, thank you so much for joining us. And I probably could have said more about you, so I'll let you fill in the gaps for anything that I've missed.
Thank you, Kim. Yeah, I think I'm very similar to most women where we get to this point in our life where we coulda, shoulda, woulda, and realize that focusing on that part of things is really not the best thing for us to do moving forward. Instead, embracing who we are, what we're about, and the fact that we are uniquely ourselves. So my journey really began with wanting to overcome what I call comparison-itis, constantly comparing myself to others. And I knew that within the mainstream healthcare system that I was locked into, so to speak, that was not the place I was going to find any answers, and certainly not the place I was going to help people thrive. So I wanted to look elsewhere for that. I needed to know more about the mind-body connection and how emotional roadblocks really either create or destroy our dreams.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think the comparison-itis trap is such an easy one to fall into. I know I've been in that trap many, 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 many times, and it still happens.
Yeah, look, I don't think we're totally immune to it. However, I think we can learn the strategies and the opportunities to be able to see ourselves for the gifts we are, and therefore letting go of the need to be like someone else. The reality is there's only one of us. We are an individual, unique being, and put on this planet for whatever, a reason you may think is there. But the reality is we are one of a kind. And the fact that we're one of a kind means that we're best to embrace our own unique self, our own unique gifts, rather than constantly downplaying who we are or what we can give to this world because we're comparing ourselves to others. Other people are going through their journey, and most of the time, especially in my experience, I've found that those people are comparing themselves to you. So, at the end of the day, everyone is playing this compare game, and it's unhealthy.
Yes, and I think it keeps us stuck where we are, and then it creates all these stories and beliefs that aren't true, but it allows us to find the evidence to say, oh, but they are.
Exactly. And that's the thing. We start looking for evidence that we're not enough and that we're not worthy and that we, there's someone else better than us, etc. And the reality is the part of your brain, the reticular activating system, the RAS, will actually look for whatever you tell it to look for. Henry Ford has a saying, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you get to be right. And he's based on the fact that that part of your brain, the RAS, will actually look for whatever you train it to look for.
Yeah.
So if you train it to look for faults, or you train it to look for less thans or lack ofs or unworthiness or not enoughness, that's exactly what it'll find. The good news is we can train it to do the opposite. We can train it to look for and show us evidence of when we are enough and worthy and all of those things that we strive to be.
Yeah, I love that because I think when you get stuck in that trap, it's hard to think the opposite of like, oh, I actually am. And let me look for those things that support that. Because that seems maybe sometimes so far out of reach or unattainable that it's easier to just stay focused on the negatives.
Very much so. It's always easier to stay in the familiar space
Hmm.
because familiarity is comfortable. Even
Hmm.
though it's not comfortable, it's
Yes.
comfortable. So this comfort zone that we lock ourselves into or get ourselves trapped into is not necessarily where we want to be. It's just familiar.
Hmm. Yeah. And coming out of that onto the other side of something else can be scary, terrifying, really. So it's like, yeah, this feels awful, but let me stay here because at least it's not scary.
Absolutely. And it's only because it's unfamiliar with a dash of uncertainty that it feels anything close to awful.
Hmm.
Once we allow ourselves to settle into that discomfort and grow and evolve and grow and evolve and peel off some of those layers of lack and unworthiness, we become more comfortable in that now becoming familiar area. And that's where growth comes from. We need to
Hmm.
step out of that familiar uncomfort or discomfort, the comfort zone, step out of that and take a step forward in the direction that we actually choose rather
Hmm.
than where we just.
Yeah, I love that. And so as you kind of embarked on your own journey, um, what propelled you to take the journey? Because in your everything like your bio and the things that you that I've read about you before hopping on the episode, you shared that you were having pain and lethargy, and so is that what propelled you to become a doctor, or were you already a doctor and then experiencing those things?
The transition to becoming a doctor was during the pain and lethargy time. I
Mm-hmm.
was in my own phase of burnout. And at the time, it was emotional and financial burnout. I
Mm-hmm.
was working my butt off, but getting nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt like the harder I worked, the further I got behind in all areas of what I deemed success at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought launching myself into healthcare was going to bring safety and security to the family from a financial point of view. And I thought it would bring me enoughness. I thought it would bring me, a layer of that perceived status.
Mm-hmm.
And no, I was searching for external validation,
Mm-hmm.
basically, as in a nutshell, I was searching for that more.
Yeah.
But I was looking for it at the time in all the wrong places. So it was through that journey and transition that I realized that even reaching my goals or what I thought were my goals at the time of becoming a doctor and getting into allied health and really helping people make a difference in their world physically, I still hadn't reached what I considered the outcome I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Because even though I could physically help people and I got myself out of physical pain, uh, through learning about emotional release and learning through, how to look after the body more holistically, I wasn't yet able to do it with my clients. And it was just becoming more and more frustrating knowing that I could help them physically, but we hadn't tapped into the big picture. We hadn't been holistic yet. And I got
Mm-hmm.
into allied health to be holistic. And it still wasn't holistic because it hadn't yet shown me the mind body connection. It hadn't shown me about the emotional stuff. And we can see that more and more nowadays with,
Mm-hmm.
the challenges that people have been through for the last 2 to 3 years. We can see evidence right in front of us every day how big and how stressful the emotional stuff is.
Mm-hmm.
And that snowballs and makes all of the physical stuff like out of this world.
Yeah.
And it was through all of that frustration of not yet reaching what I considered the successful model, that I kept looking for, or maybe it found me, whichever way it went. I found NLP and appreciated and was really opened up. I really got to open up about this whole other avenue of thinking that I hadn't yet considered. And that's when it really was a game changer for me to be able to go, wow, there's more than just physical poke and prod. to make a difference. This is emotional, and this is baggage, and this is the, you know, where the comparison-itis comes from. This is where the big picture is. And it's through my exploring these modalities and really mastering them that I made such a significant difference in my own life, financially, emotionally, physically, the whole lot. I gained huge amounts of work-life balance, which I hadn't had before. And that I went, you know what, I've found something magical here, and it is my role, my job, my duty, my gift to be able to share this with others. And it's in the last 6 years where I've been sharing NLP with other people and helping people, you know, go on that journey for themselves. That's what's brought me fulfillment. That's what's brought me success, is being able to share these skills with others.
Yeah, I love it. So I've dabbled in NLP a little bit, excuse me, but I haven't gone nearly as far as you. So tell us a little bit about NLP, and exactly how it helps with the mind-body connection.
Yeah, for sure. NLP is neuro-linguistic programming. So it's effectively the language we use and how it affects our nervous system. So neuro being the nervous system, so our brain, our spine, a spinal cord, the nervous system, the whole nervous system. And most of us are fully aware that we have a conscious mind and an unconscious mind. Now, the conscious mind is the poor darling that's running the show in the way of, it's our thinking brain, it's our logical brain, it's the bit that filters. But it's also like our mobile phone. It runs out of steam. It needs recharging. And this is why we sleep at night, to recharge the conscious mind. The unconscious mind's always working. That's a good thing, because that keeps us breathing, it keeps our heart beating, it keeps our digestive system going. It's always running. It's the autopilot. It's the autonomic system. It's the bit that keeps going regardless of what's happening in our conscious mind. We don't have to tell our body to breathe. It does it for us. The thing is, all of our beliefs, behaviors, values, what's important to us, are also stored in the unconscious mind. And if you have a default autopilot system of I'm not good enough and I'm not worthy, and fear of failure and comparison-itis and not enoughness, then that is the track that we play on repeat. So the thing is, the change absolutely needs to be made in the unconscious mind if we're going to make it stick. The problem is that people try and do it consciously. So if you've ever done a New Year's resolution, yes, this year I'm going to be successful. And by January 2nd or 3rd, you're already stuffing it up because you're trying to do it consciously.
Yes.
NLP enables us to utilize language to clear out, like a factory reset on your nervous system, and clear out the old baggage. Get rid of the anger from 30 years ago. Get rid of the sadness from when you were a child. Get rid of the guilt. Get rid of the fear. Get rid of the hurt. Get rid of the I'm not good enough and the I'm not worthies and all the other BS that we tell ourselves, believing it to be true, yet we haven't really got evidence that it's true. So all that underlying belief system, NLP and timeline therapy literally clears it out of the nervous system. So it's gone. No more carrying around the burden of the past, the traumas of the past, the roadblocks of the past. And what that means for people is they literally free up the energy within themselves to then have the opportunity to choose their future, to choose what they want. The energy of the old stuff, the baggage, is gone. People come and say to me, oh my God, I'm so tired all the time. It's no surprise. You're carrying around the neurology, the nervous system baggage for your entire life.
Yeah, which is pretty heavy.
Because you haven't yet cleaned it out. It's very heavy. You imagine it like, you know, when you were a little girl and you put on a backpack, and you put on a backpack of anger and shame and guilt and fear. And it was a small backpack when you were a little girl. But as you became a teenager, you filled it up with more not enoughness and guilt and shame and whatever else you went through. And now that we're 21 plus interest, right? We're a little bit older. Our backpack's heavy. really heavy. And so much so that some of us are overachievers and we not only carry a backpack, we drag a suitcase. And because we're really overachievers, we drag 2 suitcases. So we accumulate this lifetime of crap, of negativity, of not enoughness, of comparison-itis, of imposter syndrome, you name it. Pick a label. Pick a label that you've diagnosed with over the last 10, 20, 30 years. All of that is being carried around in our nervous system. So it's no surprise, no matter how much sleep you get, you are still waking up tired and fatigued. It's because your nervous system hasn't actually gone into rest and digest. It stays in the fight and flight system. So this is why we have so much anxiety, so much stress, so much ADHD, so much PTSD. So you pick a label. It comes down to the fact that our nervous systems are so fired up and wired up, and people can't find relief. So they look for relief in the alcohol bottle, or the drugs, or the gambling, or social media scrolling, or bad relationships. You pick a thing, right? Humans look for distraction, avoidance, or addictions in order to try and just numb themselves for just a few minutes from their nervous system heaviness.
It's the only way they get a break. But what they don't realize is that they're now adding a new luggage to that luggage that they're carrying. And before you know it, they're going to need that luggage rack from the airport.
Exactly. So it generally is at the time where people are using the luggage rack at the airport and they haven't got a spare hand for anything else, that they reach out for help and go, I'm done. This is heavy. It's hard work. And I want some energy in my life. I want some fun in my life. And this is what NLP brought me. NLP and timeline therapy literally allowed me to clear all of the suitcases and baggage from my entire nervous system for my life. And it's like the little girl putting down her heavy backpack and then being able to go play on the swings and flip upside down on the monkey bars without having to even care because she's free. Well, that's the opportunity we get to have with adults or teenagers, whatever age, by allowing them to put down the neurological backpack that they've been carrying around for years. And when you no longer have that burden, no longer have that heaviness, the future looks bright. I don't know how many clients have said, I can't even see a future. The future looks like a brick wall. It looks like a roadblock. It looks like nothing. And when you clear up the past, you can actually see your future. And then have a hope of designing it the way you want it, because you're no longer looking in the rear vision mirror, looking at your past as you're going forward to your future.
And how incredible is that? I mean, you only get one shot at life. So it's almost like you get a free do-over. And of course, you can't go back and change the past, but it allows you to move forward with more purpose, more direction, more ease, more confidence. And that is huge, huge.
Absolutely massive. And what I love about it is you nailed it. You can't change the past, but you can change how you think of it. You can change how you view it, and you can change how you're attached to it or not. So many people are still utilizing the emotions of 3-year-old them to dictate what happens today. And that's very unfortunate. Because people hold themselves back from job promotions or aligned relationships because they're trying to do today from the emotion they felt back in grade school when they felt inadequate. Oh, well, that essay didn't work out, or that assignment didn't work out, so that means I'm not smart enough, so I can't go for this job promotion, so I'll just stay stuck doing something I hate. Instead of clearing out all that and realizing that how you performed as a 7-year-old doesn't need to be dictating how you perform today.
Yes. And I love that you said it gives you the chance to think differently, because I think then you can see the lesson from the past. It allows you to have a completely different perspective, and it helps shift out of victim mentality, the victim space, and into a more empowered space. And I think that too is just monumental, really, because it allows you to take ownership in a way that's more serving rather than continuing to blame or feel resentful or bitter.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the first principles of NLP is cause and effect, stepping into your power where you can get results and solutions rather than staying in victim status. You
Hmm.
know, things have absolutely happened to you or for you, but you don't need to stay in that stuff. You don't need to stay in the quicksand of those emotions from 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. You don't
Hmm.
need to stay there. You don't need to allow those things to stay like a hook in your side, dragging you back to the past. You can move forward. And in timeline therapy, it's all about the learnings, the lessons, the reframing those events. And you don't need to relive events. You don't need to relive trauma. You don't need to do any of that. You literally learn really beautiful things about yourself, who you are, your attributes, your your positivities. You get to learn and uncover that and really identify with that. And that to me is life changing for you to actually see yourself in a positive light, probably for the first time in your life.
Yeah. And I think what you said about not reliving the trauma is so important, I think, because that fear, I think, is what holds people back from doing the work in the first place, because they are so afraid that they're going to have to go through the experience, maybe not literally, but metaphorically all over again. And that alone in itself is very scary and painful. And so, it was hard enough and bad enough the first time. So not having to go through it again is huge. And so then it's like, okay, that really does open up this space to get those lessons and recognize that it's not their fault. Or it
Exactly.
gives them a perspective of being able to look at the other people or a person that was involved differently too.
Absolutely. NLP is brilliant for conflict resolution, conflict in self first, and then conflict with others. And exactly like you say, it's not about reliving anything. It's about releasing, letting
Hmm.
go of. There's a lot of other more traditional therapies out there that dig up the past over and over and over again. And it's no surprise people are hesitant to reach out to life coaches or NLP coaches, etc., because of the fear
Hmm.
that that's what they're going to have to do is dredge up the past.
Yeah.
There's no need to relive what's already happened.
Hmm.
As coaches, we really only need to understand the structure and the scaffolding of the problem, not the details of the problem.
Hmm.
And when we understand the structure and the scaffolding, we can help you move forward through positivity and releasing rather than reliving. It's a
Yeah.
very different modality, very different model.
Yes, and I think a lot of people too, with more traditional like talk therapies, it feels like no result is happening because it's just talk. Like, oh, tell me about that time when. Well, how did that make you feel? And then when that happened, then how did you feel? And it can be very much that cycle, session after session after session after session. So I think people often think, well, how could this be different?
And I love the fact that, that is a question, right? How can that be different? Well, it is different because when you ask someone about their past and then ask how did that make you feel, you're actually re-embedding the
Hmm.
past by bringing it into now. We don't want that. We want
No.
the opposite of that. We want to identify the events that have happened in the past so it helps us understand the emotions and the beliefs and the limiting beliefs that came up at that time,
Hmm.
not for the purpose of putting it into now's neurology. There's zero benefit. In fact, there's the opposite of benefit for that
Hmm.
happening. So as coaches, we get to ask way different questions and far more empowering questions that have an outcome.
Hmm.
Have an outcome. Uh, we get to be able to release and allow the client to go through a very, very simple process that is not traumatic and not reliving.
Hmm. Yeah. So, just out of curiosity, how did you come across NLP?
I was actually in a boardroom meeting, interstate, and one of the participants in the boardroom was learning how to expand his NLP business. He was
Mhm.
such an energetic creature. He had really powerful questions, and he asked, there was something about his energy. I went, whoa, you've really got something special here. And it was his energy that I really felt. And I just spoke with him at lunchtime. I said, just having a chat with me after this meeting. I really want to know what it is you do. And we ended up doing a workout in the gym together because we were staying at the same hotel. So he said, I'm going to the gym afterwards, meet me in the gym. And I went, sweet, this is great.
Mhm.
There was just something about his energy. I went, I want more of that. I want to
Yeah.
know what that's about. And it literally fell into my lap, and
Wow.
went off and did my NLP practitioner course with him, went
Mhm.
on to do a master's, and then went on to do my trainers, because I had no intentions of becoming a coach.
Mhm.
But once I learned the modalities and I felt the change in me, I went, oh my God, I've got to share this with everyone. This is powerful stuff. And the energy it gave and gifted me, because I had cleaned out crap, years of crap, I went, the world needs this. This is
Yeah.
actually going to help heal the world. So it was in that moment that it just became my mission to spread the word that there are options out there that actually work, and that are relatively pain-free to go through in the first place, and make a difference, and they're quick, and they're easy, and they're permanent. And I went,
Yeah.
the world needs to know about this stuff. We've
Yeah.
been we've been bashing away at an old model that sucks for
Yeah.
so long. This needs to get out there. So,
Yeah.
it found me.
Wow. I love it. That's incredible. So if someone is listening and they're like, okay, I totally relate. I've got the lethargy. I'm at that point. I'm at that wall, but I don't really know how to start. And I'm kind of putting you on the spot because I didn't prep you for this one. Um, what can someone do if they're at that breaking point where they're like, I just can't carry the backpack or roll the luggage. Even the luggage car is too much to bear, and I'm ready to start putting things down. How do they get started?
Before they even reach out for help, because help is the best way to have it done.
Hmm.
Ask someone who's already done it before. They'll get you there on the fast track way of doing it. But before you even pick up, I was going to say pick up the phone. How old school's that? Right. Before you even reach out,
Okay, well, we can
the
technically
first
still
thing,
pick up a cell phone. It's just not connected to
yeah,
the cord on
yeah,
the
yeah, we'll
wall, but
call it
we still
that.
pick it up. Fair enough.
I wasn't going to refer to dial a number or anything like that. Realistically, the fastest way to make change is to start seeing the good in life
Hmm.
straight away. And then you've actually got the feeling of hope, the feeling of opportunity to change. And that, for me personally, comes from gratitude. What is it I already have, that I've already received, that is pleasing to me? And it can be as simple as the car I'm driving, the home I'm living in, the fact that I have heating and cooling, the fact that I have running water, like really simple things,
Yeah.
and focusing what I do have. I do that practice every day regardless, because it really brings me into now
Hmm.
and helps me feel good about life.
Hmm.
And I can actually go, right, now I can breathe, because a lot of people
Yeah.
don't breathe very well. Now I can breathe and I'm ready to make change. And this is where you reach out to either a life coach, an NLP coach, someone who's already done the do, someone who already knows what the steps and the processes are, so they can guide you through quickly, effectively, and efficiently, so that way you don't need to live with that stuff anymore.
Hmm.
My other piece of advice is pay attention to how many times you say the word don't or
Hmm.
can't, any of those negatives. Pick yourself up on that, because our unconscious mind actually can't process negatives. So if I was to say to you, don't think of a blue tree, you've just thought of a blue tree and then
Yeah.
tried to change it either to a different color or a different thing, because your mind cannot process the negatives.
Right.
So if you have something in your world that you want to change, get rid of the don'ts and say it the way you want it. Your unconscious mind only does what it's told. So tell it good stuff. tell it really good stuff. Start small and build.
Mm-hmm.
All
Yeah,
right.
I love that.
There's no point chanting and doing affirmations for I am a millionaire, I am a millionaire, I am a
Mhm.
millionaire, I am a millionaire if it's so far from the truth.
Yes. Although it'll be
Your mind
really
will come,
nice.
and it'll come, but you've got to stop BSing yourself in the meantime, or else your brain's gonna buck and kick.
Mm-hmm.
So start smaller than that, but positive.
Yeah.
Wow, I've got $10 in my wallet. Yes, thank you. And then it'll be 15, and then it'll be 20, and then it'll be 100. Start small, but build on it. Accumulate beautifully in the positive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. And I think even just starting with, the appreciation of $10 is huge, because we often take that amount for granted because it is a smaller amount. So it's doesn't feel maybe as like unattainable or unreachable to have $10 in your pocket unless you always are swiping your card. But then you have $10 to swipe on your card. So it's just really that perspective shift.
Yes.
Because when we stop and look, and I couldn't agree more about the gratitude. I've been keeping a gratitude journal every day for years on end. And I save them all because I like to go back through and look at them and see what I was grateful for 5 years ago. And if it's similar or to what I'm grateful for now and how it's changed. Um, but there's also a book. Sometimes it can feel hard to maybe find things to be grateful for, especially when we're like so thick in the struggle, so deep in the struggle, and it like feels just like clawingly thick to get through. There's a book, 14,000 Things to Be Happy About, and it's like a little rectangle book. And it's just literally pages and pages and pages and pages of random things. And the book is just numbered from 1 to 1,400. And it's silly things like a red balloon. Like, and if you think about it, you're like, yeah, balloons are fun. Like they make you smile because they're fun things that kids love to play with. Or it's like a chocolate ice cream cone or a frosted donut. And so sometimes it's fun just to flip through the book and like randomly like flip through a page, close your eyes, stop and point and see what you land on and see if it helps with that feeling of gratitude or joy. Because the more we can stay there, then the more that feeling of hope is there.
Yeah, absolutely. I start with things like I'm so grateful I have internet, because
Yes.
without that, we would be on this recording right now to be able to communicate with people on the other side of the planet.
Yeah.
Like when you break that down, how powerful is that?
Yes.
That we have the opportunity to communicate with people on the other side of the planet in the comfort of our own home.
Yes.
Like just in that statement, there's so much to be grateful for.
Yes. 100%. Because if you can't tell by Kim's accent, she's Australian and she's in Australia and I am in Pennsylvania. So we literally on opposite sides of the planet having this conversation. It's 9:11 in the morning, I think, for her. And she just sent her kiddos off to school and it's 7:11 at night for me. And we just have ended our day and everybody's winding down. And so the fact that we can even just have the ability to communicate with each other, because before the internet, it would not have happened.
And the power to be able to run these devices and the power to have the warmth, and this chair that I'm sitting on is actually really comfortable. And the fact that I have my warm, snug boots, like I go on gratitude rants to be able to be
Yes.
so grateful for the pen I have in my hand in case I want to take a couple of notes so I don't forget anything. Like just so many things. It's a pen. I'm so happy I have a pen. I can jot down my ideas. You know, it starts with the smallest of things, but it accumulates into magic. You know, just like the first workout can feel really hard, but it accumulates to magic. The first time you say something nice to yourself, you keep doing that, it accumulates to magic. This is the thing. It's those small, manageable things that accumulate into something beautiful, rather than looking for the big aha success that we all seem to think this epiphany is going to happen. An
Yeah.
epiphany is an accumulation of very small things that all just stacked up. So just like we have the luggage of the past that stacks up, we can also accumulate and stack up the good stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't need to carry it.
Yes.
We don't need to carry it. We can believe it.
Yes. So it's almost like little, um, like almost like a cell phone, because then you can put it in apps and like organize it and sort it and things like that. And then you don't need all those luggage racks and bags and backpacks and suitcases and all those things, because it just fits into a little iPhone or a tablet, something like that. And it still works the same way. It's just not nearly as heavy to carry around.
Exactly. And the cell phone is actually a really good analogy of our nervous system. You delete out the unused, unneeded apps, and the phone works faster.
Yes.
Well, so do we.
Hmm.
Clear out the unneeded, unused, old baggage, and we function faster because
Yeah.
there's no more sludge left. There's no more heaviness left to block the system. So
Hmm.
clean out the old apps.
Yeah. Get rid of them all. Get rid of them
Mhm.
all. So like that's literally like a physical thing that you could do right now, is start cleaning out your clutter, to make room for doing the work that needs to be done.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, Kim, this was amazing. Thank you so much for coming to chat with us. And if you found this episode helpful, please feel free to share it with a friend, because the more the merrier. And if you would be so kind to leave a review, I would greatly appreciate it, because they take the time to read all the reviews to ensure that this podcast continues to be a place of guidance and support, and really a one-stop shop for all things in terms of like resources, um, for womanhood, motherhood, lifehood, if that's a word, it will be now. Because let's face it, us ladies, we have to stick together. So thanks so much for tuning in for another episode, and I will see you next week.